Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here today and wonderful to hear from you all. My name is Mahujya. I'm doing creative writing here in Newcastle University, PhD. I'm writing a climate fiction novel. And before I begin, I'd like to thank Paul and all in the organizing team. So today I want to talk about why climate change, despite being everywhere in our media, often leaves us feeling powerless, and how the stories we might tell actually be part of the problem. I'll be exploring how epic superhero-style climate narratives can unintentionally create distance and passivity, and why shifting toward more grounded, everyday storytelling might help us reconnect and re-engage. The paradox of climate apathy. Climate discourses everywhere, headlines, documentaries, social feeds. Despite that, a certain numbness has set in. We binge blockbuster epics where superheroes or rogue AI solve extinction-level threats, and we walk away with our leftover popcorn and empty soda cans. We talk and lament the fate of future generations, but most often feel no sense of personal stake. These grandiose stories suggest that only larger-than-life actors can turn the tide, that someone, somewhere, will do something about it. This in turn reinforces a dangerous passivity in readers. We see endless CGI catastrophes and singular chosen one saviors. Our brains categorize a problem as too vast for ordinary action. As a result, many shrug. What difference can I make? By framing climate solely as an epic, we dramatize distance and diminish agency. Art possesses the capacity to engage individuals within the context of their everyday environments, such as domestic spaces, commutes, and local surroundings, by illustrating that meaningful change often originates from routine human decisions. When fictional narratives depict seemingly minor disruptions, such as a dripping tap or the persistent thrum of a parched garden, they help translate abstract climate discourse into tangible lived experiences. These narratives relocate climate impacts from distant, large-scale phenomena to familiar domestic settings. Readers are able to identify with characters whose lives reflect their own habits, concerns, and vulnerabilities. This identification fosters a sense of personal relevance and potential for action. My research investigates how literary representations of everyday inconveniences, those subtle, often overlooked consequences of collective inaction, can reframe public understanding of the climate crisis. By focusing on the cumulative effects of these disruptions, the study explores whether such portrayals can enhance individual and communal responsiveness to environmental challenges. As part of my broader research agenda, I am designing a workshop in which participants both engage with grounded climate narratives and contribute their own climate stories and reflections on climate discourse. In my climate fiction novel, the narrative foregoes extraordinary heroism and instead traces a family's gradual confrontation with environmental decline. Over the course of a single year, they relocate 3 times as unreliable air quality, failed weather reports, and eroded social networks force them onward. Everyday disruptions become the novel's focal points. An intense craving for a desert that cannot be found any longer since the trees have been cut down. The choice to use the savings for a dream car, or even the disrupted football matches when you can finally afford those hospitality tickets. The narrative centers on a family unit to emphasize that foundational understandings of climate change emerge within the home, and that cycles of apathy and passivity recur through domestic experience. Within literary and academic spaces, writers, readers, and conference participants play active roles in shaping climate engagement. Writers craft narratives that emphasize everyday agency over mythic heroism, showing how small, inconsistent actions contribute to broader environmental awareness. Readers engage with an elevated fiction that situates ecological crises within familiar lived experiences, making the abstract tangible. Educators and event organizers incorporate these narratives into curricula, reading lists, and public programming, embedding climate discourse into cultural and intellectual life. By framing responsibility as a series of ongoing choices rather than a singular world saving act, we center climate action in the realities of daily life. This approach fosters a more inclusive and sustainable foundation for collective response. So far, I've talked about how climate narratives can leave us feeling detached, while stories rooted in everyday life can leave again a sense of personal connection and agency. What I'd like to share now is a short excerpt from my novel that puts those ideas into practice, following an ordinary family as they navigate the slow, intimate disruptions of a changing world. The lights were dim and the shop silent. Rahul sighed. The staff inside the restaurants and cafes stared back at him, their eyes vacant and their lips curled down. Many of the shops were shut, roughly 1 in 3, he counted on his fingers. He started when he came across a cafe with a name board that read Desi Chai in bold, accompanied by a mustachioed man in turban. He pushed the glass door and stepped inside. His feet splashed a small puddle by the road. The place was a near square in design, the distance from the door to the barely 10 meters. 2 red pillars flanked the counter at the back. All the furniture was wooden. The only staff, a young lady with a tan complexion and a red turban on her head, stood behind the counter. It matched the rest of the furniture, sturdy but worn out. The door to her back, with staff written on it, was green in color, the only thing in the whole place that was not brown or red. Framed photos of the family that ran the place, from old black and white to recent high definition film, hung on the left wall along with the map of the subcontinent on the right. Rahul smiled back at her and moved to the counter when the door to the side, a bit out of the view behind the pillar opened. A man walked out and sat on one of the high tables with his back to Rahul. Rahul's eyes narrowed and his breath stuck in his throat. Is that Panchal? The man had the same haircut. His slumped shoulders and uncreased shirt were unlike Panchal, but everything else matched. Rahul, rooted to the spot, stared at the man who scrolled through his phone without once looking up. Is it really him? How come? And it's only been a few weeks, so why does he look so weak? Rahul kept his eyes on Panchal and took a step back. His feet made not a single sound. Sweat rolled down his face. With pursed lips, he reached for the door and pushed it gently, his one foot out on the street when the lady at the counter, who had stared at him all this while, cleared her throat in loud fashion. Her beautiful smile turned strained and ugly. Hello there, good morning. Welcome to Desi Chai.